Welcome to another episode of Worldie Unboxed. Today we're going to change things up and do a wellness episode. So it's going to be led by our newest co-founder, Fiona Wright, as she picks apart how we are emotionally and mentally holding up during this venture. So I'll let her do all the other introduction. But yes,
picks
please.
Apart. Thank you, Brandon. I think we just wanted to create a series that was birthed from the idea of just making sure that we are all well and okay through this journey. I know that any entrepreneurial journey or generally in life can be challenging, the ups and downs. And I think that it's really important that we pause and do these check-ins from time to time and just make sure everyone is okay.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm on board. Let's kick it off.
Okay. So I think today we'll focus on just recognizing the emotional impact of your journey and then kind of go over how the team is navigating in real time. I would love to ask you guys questions so that we can dig a little bit deeper and see how you're navigating the emotional side of entrepreneurship. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, good.
This feels so organic, natural. Okay, so first, we all have a lot on our plates. We're all juggling a lot of different things at the same time and trying to build Worldie up. So how are you holding up mentally and emotionally? What's the energy like in your life and in your business right now?
Who's answering this first?
I mean, I can start. I would say I'm barely holding up physically, mentally, and emotionally, but I think that's just kind of the reality right now. I think it's not always going to look like what it looks like right now, but for right now, I'm just trying to. There's not like a lot of energy for other areas of my life other than work and then, starting a business on the side. So that takes up a lot of my time and energy. And I mean, both of those kind of endeavors are pretty stressful. So it's tough, but, anything that's worth doing is going to be difficult. So that's just kind of the way that I'm able to, continue to push forward.
Yeah, I think that's probably very similar to how I feel. I also feel like I should be like laying back on the couch to answer this question. I'd probably do a better job of answering these emotional driven questions if I was in a comfortable situation. So I think for me, the big thing is it's very similar to like a roller coaster. So I'll have like real like highs, like moments of euphoria, like, oh yeah, I can see the vision so clearly and see where we're going to be so clearly. And it's very, those days it's easy to be motivated. It's very easy to be motivated. It's very easy to go out and try to get things accomplished. And you really have an understanding of, where the business is at and where you kind of see the business going in the near term. So I think those days are great, but then there's a lot of days in there that's, those are the low points where you're not feeling as motivated, where maybe your vision is a bit more blurred. It's not as crystal clear as it is on other days. And so I think that's really kind of the emotional like journey that I'm on when it comes to entrepreneurship, when it comes to Worldie specifically. Obviously, as both of you mentioned, like we've got a lot of things on our plate. And so that also comes into bear from like a mental standpoint when you're having to go through a day of work. And then at the end of the day, you're trying to jump on some of the worldly tasks that you have and that you want to make sure you accomplish in order for this business to keep moving in a positive direction. So yeah, it's definitely all that can be summed up to say that this is just one big like emotional roller coasters of highs and lows.
Do you feel like it sounds like you guys are kind of viewing this as this is what it needs to be right now until we get to a certain level and then I can take care of myself? Is that accurate?
No, I think like I realized that it's probably going to be similar to this, even at a different, when we move to a different level, like, or we move into a different phase of the business, there are going to be days where we're highly motivated, or days, talking specifically about myself, days where I'm highly motivated and I can like, I see the next, iteration of Worldie or the next portion of the vision a little clearer than I do on other days. So I think that's always going to be a part of it. I think that's just entrepreneurship in general. It's just going to be like it's not some kind of linear journey. It's lots of highs, lots of peaks, lots of valleys. And you just have to kind of navigate that by understanding your whys when it comes from like a business perspective. Like, why am I in this? Why am I doing this? What are the important things that I value that I'm able to accomplish through this particular venture? And then outside of worldie, outside of business, like what are some things that are like important to me and making sure that those things aren't neglected during this time? And in moving forward, like it's something that like I think we'll just have to continue to balance. But that's it. That's life, really. At least in my opinion, it's being able to juggle and balance these different relationships, these different things that you have on your plate, and having a good system to prioritize.
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. I think it will always be an emotional roller coaster. And I'm not expecting like, oh, once we launch, like I definitely feel that up and down. And I don't think it's going to be super steady after we launch. It might even like it might magnify in terms of the highs and the lows. So I'm kind of prepared for that. I think there's just a lot of things that I'm juggling right now. And I mean, we all have day jobs. So it's kind of like there's a lot of times where we might kind of like interact before work, or there's, emails and texts coming through from 9 to 5. And then I log on like after I finish my day job, then I log on for a few hours pretty much every night. And weekends, there's a lot of work too. So I think if eventually we can go full time and all of us are full time, it will just be a lot easier because we're not switching between tasks all the time, and you have just a lot more time to actually just focus on the business. So that's kind of my hope, that eventually I could just focus on one job versus two. And I think that will make things a lot easier. But I don't expect it to be like 40 hours a week. And I kind of always expect to do at least something over the weekends. But if I can just kind of like consolidate things a little bit more at some point, I think that would be good.
Yeah, that's fair. How often do you guys make time, if at all, to kind of step back and ask yourself how you're really feeling outside of the business goals? Like, do you have an internal gauge, and do you take those moments to pause, or is it more of just like we keep moving at this pace?
When you say how we're doing, what do you mean by that?
Just do you ever take time to just stop and consider how you're doing, how you're feeling, and really sort through?
Yeah, I mean, all the time, every day. All the time.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way. I'm always, it's like, it's not something that I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop and think about like where I'm at. I think that just happens like continually. Like it's something that maybe it happens a lot in the shower. But yeah, there's a lot of like those type of moments there. But I think, yeah, like Aaron said, it just happens all the time.
Is there something in your entrepreneurial journey right now that feels particularly heavy or challenging? Or on the flip side, is there something surprising that brought you joy or peace recently?
I think I wouldn't say it's heavy, but I would say it's challenging how many different things that we have to keep up with. So there's like a million different, kind of like I was saying before, like emails, texts, meetings, next steps, action items that we have to kind of like, working relationships that we have to manage, things like that. So it can just be hard to make sure that you're not letting anything slip through the cracks and you're continually pushing things forward. And if you're not super hands-on on something, that you're making sure you're aware of what's happening and providing input and things like that. So I think that's been challenging. It's just like there's a million moving parts, and kind of trying to keep track of everything can be difficult.
Yeah. Again, like I think all that, and including what Aaron said, being focused on like this launch, which is like a big, that's a big event because that's going to be where the rubber kind of meets the road. And so I think having to juggle all these things with the mindset or the understanding that they have a significant impact on the success of this launch and like the trajectory of this business. And so that becomes a bit more of a mind burden at times, because you're like realizing that you got to stay on top of these things. You have to continue to move the ball forward. If we step away from it, it's not like we have a gang of employees that are going to continue to do the work while we're away. Chat GPT can only do so much. It still needs prompts. But yeah, like you have to kind of go through the exercise of like motivating yourself, because you realize that at the tail end of this, at least this season of events that you're juggling, there's this big, climatic event, which is the launch. And that's going to have a huge like impact on where the business goes, because from there, there's a number of different like flows that we've kind of already identified that like could happen post launch. So I think that is not a dark cloud, but that's certainly something that's always omnipresent and really something that like can become like a mental burden at times, especially when you realize that you have so many things going on in life in general, plus so many things that you have to be on top of for the business.
I think related to that, if I could just add super quickly, is it does feel a little bit heavy knowing that this like really important event is coming up and we really have no idea if it's going to be successful or not, or like how successful it's going to be. And this is our really the first opportunity that we have to put the product out into the market and see if it resonates and see if it sells. So that, I wouldn't say fear of failure, but knowledge that failure is a possibility, that does feel a little bit heavy. But you just got to put it out there and see what happens. And then if it flops or whatever, then we'll figure out how to deal with that when we get there. But hopefully we do not get there. Hopefully it's a great success.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, definitely. I remember an earlier conversation, maybe between the three of us, where we talked about that possibility. And I think I remember one of you kind of framing it as, if it doesn't do well this time around, then we'll try again or try another method. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to reframe it as not necessarily a failure, but a lesson. And if so, does that alleviate any of that stress or anxiety around it?
Yeah, I mean,
of course you want it to do well.
I think we both at one point in time have always had to remind the other that like, even if, this thing doesn't like meet our expectations, and by this thing, I mean, this launch doesn't meet our expectations, that we do have some subsequent plans in place to like be able to kind of continue to move the business forward. So like, even if we don't meet the numbers that we want, like our internal numbers, we do have like a means by which we want to pursue this business. And maybe it becomes a bit of a longer road to like where we actually have like a global or a broader launch. So like, I think that is something that we constantly kind of like, reminded ourselves of, because it has been like, 3 years of working on this, and it comes, and this is the apex. This is where like all comes to a head. And so if you don't have that type of like mindset where, hey, if this thing turns out poorly, this is what we're going to, this is how we're going to react, then I think you can kind of set yourself up for some type of like real, not to say that we wouldn't be these ideas or these like subsequent paths that we can take if things don't meet our expectations completely alleviate like any kind of emotional disappointment that we feel. But I think having these plans in place kind of help like, I guess mitigate that a little bit. But if we don't have those things in place, or if we don't have that in like our mind, I think it would be like a huge letdown, like a huge like emotional toll to have worked on it for so long and then to kind of see it like just, die on the vine.
Okay, I'm going to switch a little bit. I'm interested to know if you guys ever take time off. I know we recently all kind of agreed to take a weekend off, but do you take full breaks, not just from work, but from everything? And if you do, what does that actually look like for you? How do you define rest? And do you feel like you have the space to fully unplug and recharge? Or is that something you're still figuring out?
I'm still trying to figure that out, I would say for sure. Even if I say I'm not going to do work, a lot of time, like if I'm lifting weights and I say like, okay, I'm going to take an hour to just work out and like take a break from work, I'm still thinking about work. And sometimes like I'll have some idea and then I'll like run and run to the locker room, unlock my locker, pull out my phone and like start typing in the notes app or whatever. Or if I'm at home, maybe like I jump off the exercise bike and start like writing things down on my computer or on a piece of paper. So that kind of, it's hard for me to like fully take a break. And a lot of times, like maybe I'll turn on the TV and say, I'm going to watch a game or a movie. And then I start thinking about the business, and same kind of thing. I just turn off the movie and go back to my computer and start like writing down ideas or sending off emails or whatever. So it's definitely something that I'm still trying to figure out. I think it is definitely good to completely unplug because you definitely risk burnout if you're always working, but it is very hard for me to resist the urge to return to work whenever I start to take a break.
Yeah. I look back at the weekend, or, it ended up almost being like a week off from worldie, and that's from like formally being able to like engage, or formally, engaging in worldie. So like Aaron, I was always kind of thinking about it. It was always, it's something that's going to be present in some sense at all times. In unplugging from it actually created more thoughts about it, because you realize no one, and this goes back to like one of the answers that I heard earlier, like no one else is, we're not pushing the ball forward if we're taking a break from it. And this is like a very significant time in Worldie's existence to have like to continue that momentum. So even though like I think a break is good, it really like creates like a little bit of like anxiety, because you're like, all to like do something. Otherwise, it's just going to be stagnant. I don't know how long that's going to put us behind. And you kind of like think about it like you're able to think about it long term, and you're like, wow, a day missed here or 3 or 4 days missed here can end up being like a couple $100,000 or millions of dollars that we've kind of blown because we didn't get, that progress that we were trying to get. So like, I don't know, like there's a lot of like big thoughts that happen, and a break isn't always like a break in my experience. And so I always kind of like stay plugged in, even when I'm like not engaging. I'm always like plugged in. Will that lead to burnout? I don't know. Like, I guess it could. I'm not going to say like, oh, it's impossible for me to be burnt out on something. Like, I definitely think like I've come to like situations in this venture where I'm like, I really feel like I'm at the end of my rope or whatever. Like, this is it. Like, this is all I have for it. But those are usually like very short periods of time. Like they're usually like, hours at most. So I don't know. It's not something that I do very often, like completely unplug. And even like this period that we just had, I wasn't completely unplugged. And then the other things in my life are always going to have to be like, it's not like I can just like, stop being a dad or whatever. And like how you girls kind of fend for yourself for a while. So like there's things that I always have to accomplish. So it's not like I'm just going to sit back and just chill out on the couch. Those days are gone, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately. I love the girls.
Good save.
Didn't want people to take that the wrong way. I regret my responsibility. Nah, I enjoy them all. So the smallest one needs to learn how to sleep, but that's about it.
I feel you. I think it's easy to get caught up in focusing on the next big win. And it sounds like both of you kind of do that. I think right now there is that added pressure. We're leading up to the Kickstarter. So that is like the next big thing that is very near. So that does make sense. But generally speaking, I think it's also important to celebrate the small wins. So knowing that, has there been a small victory recently that you guys are proud of, even if it's something personal? It doesn't necessarily have to be worldie related.
It's really hard to say. I guess I've been exercising more, which is good because it's very important to me. And I kind of need to, because I have these like some chronic pain and stuff like that, where if I don't exercise, then it gets a lot worse and it's very painful. So I've been prioritizing my health a little bit more recently, but I feel like that's not even like a little win. That's kind of like I let myself go and I'm finally starting to take some care of myself again.
I think that's a little big win because there are so many people that don't prioritize that and they justify not moving, or I shouldn't say justify, that sounds judgy, but they get caught up in life and they're like, oh, I don't. So I think making time to prioritize that is a win. What about you, Brandon?
I think that we just completed this application, and I did not, halfway through it, I was like, oh man, we're not. This is just we'll do it next cycle. Like it's gonna be a next cycle type thing, and to have decided to like, oh, all right, let's go ahead and like let's see if we can finish it in 24 hours, and to have done that, I thought that was pretty cool. Like that was like a little bit of a win that made me, kind of feel good, like something that worked out. And I don't know how successful it's going to be, but we're at least put our foot, we at least put, our hat in the ring or whatever. I don't even know how the saying goes, but like what I mean? Like we at least gave ourselves a shot to actually participate. So I think that was like a little bit of a win.
I agree. And that helps. Accomplishing it the first time is going to help us to build momentum, and then it becomes easier and feasible each time that we do it. Yay us. And yay you for like rallying all of us to get it done.
No, it was that was me being like procrastinating. But like if you wait to the last minute, it only takes a minute. That's not a saying you should live by, but that's how that one played out.
Sounds like a very ADHD saying that I do accidentally live by, unintentionally live by. Well, I think that was all of the questions I had today. And just to end on the note that we are all juggling a lot. And I still think it's important that we take time here and there to think about what small changes we can implement in our routines to help support our mental and emotional health, because I would like all of us to be well as we continue on this journey so that we can give our best to worldie.
No, I think that's good. Wait, before we wrap up,
Dang.
I mean, like you should at least like share a little bit about like your emotional, like how do you feel so far having jumped into this race? We'll end with that, or your feelings.
Yeah, what I think is true about myself, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, is I say how I feel generally. Like I'm pretty open with, hey, I don't like this, or I maybe don't say it that bluntly. So I think I let you guys know. I try to communicate that because I want everyone to understand. So I reached out to you guys previously and I was like, hey, I'm getting a little burnt out. I have to structure this differently. And that is one of the ways that I prioritize self-care, is like, I try to pay attention to when it's happening, because before I would just run myself into the ground, and it does manifest physically for me. So then before I know it, my body is like, no, you're going to stop. So I try to stay ahead of that and just have more frequent check-ins and catch it a little earlier, and then figure out what can help alleviate that. I'm also in therapy, so she is actually also someone who helps with catching that early, identifying it, and then brainstorming resolutions and solutions and things to try. Meditation was a big one. And Erin, like how you were saying, you're starting to work out more. That's something that I also have put on the back burner, and it's also very important to me. So I've just recently gotten back into moving my body more, trying to listen to more mindful things. Podcasts are helpful for me. So those are like little things that I implement. I don't even know if that was your question, but that's...
No, I mean, my question was really broad. And so I think that was a good answer. And it's good to hear that you're practicing what you're preaching. So that's trying to get to your level.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a wrap. Like we kept it up under 30 minutes like we intended.
Look at us.
You're welcome, listeners.
Cool.
I think that was
So I did want to just to close for the listeners, to everyone that's tuning in, I think we would love to challenge you guys to also do the same, to take a moment and reflect on your emotional well-being, even if it's just this week, and then make small practices. And if you are inclined, share with us on IG. Our IG is @worldie_brand. Follow us, follow our journey. Let us know where you're at, what you're working on. We love to hear all of the things and what's working for you in your wellness journey too.
Perfect. Like how did we screw that up? We always ask people to plug, and we forgot to plug our own episode. So thank you, Fiona. That's another great reason why we have you on the team, just to remind us to do simple things like that. All right. I think that's it. That's the pod.